Next, we have the Gestalt theory by Max Weithermer, Wolfgang Kohler, and Kurt Kafka. Okay, so what is Gestalt theory? So Gestalt is a German word that roughly means configuration. So configuration means the form of certain object as a whole, or the way things are put together to form a whole object. So the primary focus is on the perception or discernment, like how you perceive meaning by looking into something, and how people assign meaning to visual stimuli. So the very famous phrase of Gestalt theory is, the whole is more than the sum of its parts. So it means that it is better that you would expect from the individual parts, because the way they combine adds a different quality. So there are 5 principles of Gestalt theory. First, we have the law of proximity. So in this law, we tend to perceive elements as a group when they are close to each other. So the position of element or the closeness of elements matters in this principle. So the law of proximity describes how human eye perceives connections between visual elements. So the law of proximity is very useful for allowing people to group ideas, concepts, and etc. And it's ideal for us to be able to recognize different clusters of items at a glance, just like the example. Next, we have the law of similarity. So the law of similarity is how we piece information together by how similar objects are. So we tend to group elements that look like each other. So take note, when we say law of similarity, always remember similar elements or look like each other. So just like the example shown. So at first glance, we think that it's all the same elements, but when we try to focus on looking into it, we will notice that it has a circle and triangle shapes. So we tend to look that they are alike, but they are not. Okay, so next we have the law of good continuation or continuity. So in this one, this asserts that the human eye follows lines, curves, or a sequence of shapes in order to determine a relationship between designed elements. So our mind follows paths and group elements that are aligned with each other. So people tend to draw a good continuous line. So always remember, in law of good continuation or continuity, our mind follows paths. Good continuation, remember, continuous line, just like in the example, the Coca-Cola. So in Coca-Cola, the letter C, the edge of letter C is going towards the beginning of letter C in the cola. So we don't read it as Coca only, but we tend to finish what is written there, which is Coca-Cola. So number 4, we have the law of closure. So we fill in the gaps or connect the dots to complete implied shapes or images. So enclose a space by completing a contour and ignoring gaps in the figure. So closure is the illusion of seeing an incomplete stimulus as though it were whole. Thus, one unconsciously tends to complete or close a triangle or a square that has a gap in one of its sides. So just like in the example, like we have a broken triangle, but our mind tend to fill in the gaps between the lines. So instead we see another objects, we see triangle, and also the broken singles in different 3 places. So that's it. So That's law of closure. Lastly, we have the law of good pregnancy. So we find simplicity and order in complex shapes. So the brain will simplify the ambiguous or complex objects. For example, when presented the Olympic logo, you see overlapping circles rather than an assortment of curved, connected lines. So in this, the stimulus will be organized into a figure as possible according to Fritz in 1999. So it is also called the law of symmetry and order. So instead of seeing complex figures, just like overlapping circles, you see one specific figure, which are the circles are being overlapped together, and it's easier and simpler to look at that way, right? So that is the law of good pregnancy. So always remember, when we say law of good pregnancy, it is simplicity and order, or simplify. So we tend to simplify complex objects. So that's it. So let us summarize our discussion by looking into this short clip. So that is the Gestalt theory. So now my co-presenter will now proceed to the rationalization.